All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So tonight is going to be a video where it's Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevenson did a lecture, and he has a lot of photos in here. So you're going to see about 15 minutes of photos you have probably never seen before. He put a book out where he had a lot of this information in there, but he also did a lecture and stuff. And he's going to explain about the location of them, who took the photos, and how they actually came about seeing the photos. So I'm going to quit my yap. I'm going to go ahead and let this play. So it's about 15 minutes. This will probably be a part one. I'll have a part two where I'll try to put the rest out there too. So you guys let me know in the comments what you think about this, something you want to see, and then I'll definitely put some more out there.
This picture was taken, it's one of a series taken over Los Angeles, California in the autumn of 1989 at sundown by Mr. Joe Clower, who looked out the window of an office building he was in, ran down to his car, got his camera, and started snapping pictures. Here it's a little bit fuzzed out because it's approaching the camera so fast that it's growing in size as the shutter is open, and fuzzed it out. But he watched, continued to take pictures. It moved around to his left and began to descend over along the side of a tall building and over a lower building here, and came down, was moving back and forth in a slow zigzag pattern down over this building like this. He snapped that picture, and then it slowly moved around to the right again, back to the right, the direction it came from, and back into the shadow from the setting sun. And here's the final picture. Well, I beg your pardon. That's next to the last picture. It's moving back now, and here we have the last picture taken where it's now in shadow again, and we can see the shape, the profile, and the outline a little bit better. This next picture was taken over Death Valley, California, by Michael Davey, a friend of Joe Clower's. The three men, Joe Clower, Michael Davey, and Steve Thompson, were together in the desert looking for fluorescent rocks when they had their first experience with a UFO. They all three saw it. Nobody got pictures of it. It flew on. But sometime after that, Joe Clower managed to get a picture. He bought a Polaroid camera. He got one picture, had copies made, and sent it around to Mike Davey and Steve Thompson. Then later, Mike Davey got this picture in Death Valley. And after that, Steve Thompson even got a picture also. And they kept sending them around to each other. Here's another one made by Mike Davey there in Death Valley. And here's one made at Titus Canyon, which runs into Death Valley. This was a little later in the same day. And Mike Davey is moving out of the Death Valley area when he saw it again and took this picture. Here's a picture taken over a place in California. This is also Titus Canyon. It's a different craft. It was still later in the day, and Mike Davey has moved on up the road and up the canyon some distance where he got this picture. Then Joe Clower's friend Steve Thompson sent him this UFO that he had taken out in California near Antelope Canyon. Sent him this picture and told him a little bit about the story. This picture was made over Palisades Island in Puerto Rico on the 6th of July 1990 at 5:30 in the morning by Mr. Guillermo Corday, standing on the deck of his own yacht, moored in the harbor there, in the anchorage there, and looking out across the water at the early morning sun. He saw the water begin to move in a circle, to rotate like a whirlpool in the water. Then it began to get a bulge in the middle of the whirlpool, and the top of this object, metallic object, emerged, rose out of the water, began ascending into the air. Here you can still see the water running off the flanges of the craft as it ascended. It flew into the clouds and disappeared. This next one is a series of pictures taken at Tver, Russia. It's a small suburban area north of Moscow on 3 March 1991 by Alexander Pavlov and Alexei Vasilov from a local television station. This is from a television film clip. They were out here in the middle of a morning, or kind of a misty, foggy morning, when they saw the object on the other side of the river. And here is Alexei Vasilov's shoulders on the right-hand side here. His friend is standing a little bit behind him and shooting the images here. And there it moves across. Now Alexei is pointing at it. It's moved on past Alexei now. He's on the left-hand side. The object moved back and forth over the area across the river. This picture now was taken over Pacific Palisades, California in the spring of 1991 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, again by Mr. Joe Clower. He's coming from lunch at a little sidewalk restaurant there and walking to his car when he saw this flying object above the street. When he got to his car, he grabbed his little Polaroid one-step camera, snapped this photo, and then got into his car because it's flying away down the street and began to follow it. He's following it down the street now and shoots this picture through the windshield as he's starting to catch up to it. And then it speeded up, and he's still following it down the road until he comes to a break in the vegetation on the left-hand side, stopped his car, jumped out with the Polaroid, and snapped this picture. He pulled that film out, and here he handed the camera to his cousin and said, "Take a picture of me." And he's sitting on a little cement stub wall here, looking at the object while his cousin snaps a picture of his head in the picture with the object. This is a blow-up of the same object there. You can see that it has very symmetrical structure and form. It's not a cloud perception. It's not a smoke mass. It's nothing like that. Here's a picture taken over Denver, Colorado in May of 1991 by Joe Clower again, who looked out the upstairs window of his house and saw this beautiful domed craft hovering over his backyard. He went for his Polaroid camera and shot this picture through the thermal pane glass of the upstairs bedroom window of the object over the yard. Then a few days later, he's downstairs in the kitchen, and he on impulse went and looked out the kitchen window and saw this object over the backyard. And he went for the Polaroid, and he stepped out the back door and snapped this one picture of it here, watched it for a few moments, and began to circle back and move over his house. He snapped the second picture here, and snapped the second picture of it. This is a picture of the same object withdrawing from the scene. Here's another picture of it at the same time. Here's another picture. There's a date down there in the corner, 17 October 1992. The building you see here with the oval windows is a hospital building in Vancouver. Here you can see that it is a double-flanged object. It has a high dome and two flanges, one above the other. Now, here is, they had a second opportunity. They snapped those pictures, had them developed out. The children saw it again, sent one of their members for the camera, snapped the second series of pictures. This is one of those. There were several in the second series. I got a third and a fourth series, but it would have taken up too much time to put them all in here. This is the only picture ever taken on panoramic film or a panoramic shot of a UFO. This was taken near Brownwig, Germany on 8 March 1993, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just after lunch, Mr. Karsten Brettschneider was walking in a wooded area there. He was a bird watcher. He was going to take pictures of birds when he came upon this shiny dome disc that was hovering low over the scrub in the area, and it began to ascend as soon as he stepped into the clearing. He readied his camera and got this one picture before it got too high. He changed the film and got a second picture, which I don't have in there, and then the object was too far away for a third picture. This picture was taken on the 10th of March of 1993 at Ochre Point, Maslin Beach, Australia, by Mr. Eric Thompson, who was standing on a bluff overlooking the ocean. He had read about a photo contest in his newspaper, and it offered a prize for the best sunrise picture. So he got up early in the dark, went to Maslin Beach, which he thought would be a good place for a sunrise picture, which would be to his back here. And he was standing there. He got his pictures of the sunrise, which weren't too spectacular that morning. And he had turned around, was standing on a bluff looking over a sand quarry there at the beach, when he saw far out in the water, he saw a circle of white water, like white caps in a small circle, running in a circle. And as he watched, a bulge rose in the water, and the water began running off the center of the bulge, and then this metal dome emerged and slowly rose out of the water to about 100 feet. Then it began moving towards the shoreline, where he readied his camera and got this first picture. As he was watching, a small dark object appeared at wave top level, moving at high speed. It came in close, made one circle around the larger craft. Here you can see it beginning the circle. Came on around, leveled off underneath, and ascended into an opening that appeared in the bottom of the larger craft and docked, and the whole thing flew away together. Maslin Beach, Australia. This next one was photographed over Okot Lan in Jalisco, Mexico on 24 April 1993 at 6:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Raul Dominguez Lopez was walking his dog in a high scrub area there early that morning. He was in the habit of walking his dog early in the morning before 6 o'clock or around 6 o'clock, and he had seen this object several times. He prepared a camera and decided to start carrying it with him in case he ever saw it again. And he finally did. He had the camera with him, and he opened the camera and started taking pictures. He got this first one here. You can see there are 4 window lights, or that's what we want to call them, around the dome, and 1 dark. Here he snapped another picture, and they're all illuminated here. He snapped another picture, and 2 of them are dark. He snapped 4 pictures, actually. Then it ascended overhead and began to rise vertically until it rose out of sight in the clouds and was gone. This is the last picture snapped at Okot Lan. This next one comes from Montemorelos in Nuevo Leon province. And here again, the picture was brought to a television program by a spectator that was visiting in the studio. And he showed the picture to the television moderator. They put it on the program, showed it to the public. The man that brought the picture had no knowledge where the picture come from. He had seen it in the hands of a friend and said he was going to the television station, asked to borrow it, and the friend let him have it. And so starting an investigation and going back to the friend, they found that this was taken in a certain state or certain part of Nuevo Leon state, and the television crew spent days trying to identify the locality and find anybody that knew anything about it. They finally traced it back to Pepe Martinez, who was with a group of hunters that day, and Pepe had returned to the base camp early to start a fire for a barbecue lunch. And it's about high noon at the time, and as he was starting the fire, he still had his camera over his shoulder, and he saw what appeared to be a glint in the sand, made him look up, and looking over his shoulder, he saw this object. He had time to open the camera and snap that one picture. He rolled the film to snap another picture and passed out. And he woke up on his stomach in the sand with the camera about 10 feet from him. He didn't know that he had snapped the second picture. He was only aware of snapping one. But when he got the developed prints back from the Photoshop, he found that the second picture had been taken, and that's what it looked like. While the television team was trying to run down Pepe Martinez, they were in his neighborhood now, and they're asking neighbors for a closer directions to Pepe Martinez's home. When one of the neighbors said, they were explaining why they were there. The neighbor said, I took a picture of a UFO myself. And he ran in and went in his house and came out with this picture of a strange object, all right. It was flying in the air. He saw it approaching. By the time he got back out with the camera, it was quite low like this and descending slowly into the scrub. He took a second picture, I didn't put it in here, with the tops of the grass eclipsing the object. He estimated it to be about 30 to 40 feet in diameter. This picture comes from Camembaro in Guanajuato State in Mexico. There was a well-known Mexican UFO researcher, Arturo Romero Garcia, who has written a number of articles for the Mexican UFO magazines, even some Western magazines. He's well known all over the country there. He had a 12-year-old son that began telling him that he was seeing UFOs over the backyard. Of course, Arturo Romero doesn't believe a bit of it. He thinks his son is teasing him. And the son has come in several times for his father to come out and look at the UFO over the backyard. He hasn't given in yet, and he's doing something in the house when the boy came back in. He said, "Would you come take a picture of me and my friend before he leaves?" And his dad picked up the camera and went outside. That's what the friend turned out to be, and here's the 12-year-old son taking a pose here with the object over his shoulder. So the UFO investigator finally got a picture in his own camera of his own son with an object that he's been pursuing for many years. Here's a picture from a series taken over Gulf Breeze, Florida, on the 24th of September in 1994. Now, this series of pictures never got any publicity because the photographer, seeing what was happening to Ed Walters and other people that reported sightings and events, decided not to report it to anybody. He had shown it to a friend of mine who was interviewing witnesses on another sighting, and he mentioned that he had taken pictures himself, went in and got the whole set. There was 12 of them. Showed them to my friend, and my friend succeeded in getting copies of the pictures, sent them to me, and I included 2 of them in my calendars, one on this slide. I may have another one in here. Here's another picture of the object. This started when Phil Sackey came home from work, and he got out of his car and he saw up in the darker developing storm clouds, he saw a dark round object moving in and out of the clouds. And he got out of the car with his camera. He took 4 pictures of the dark object at cloud base level, sometimes, a couple of times, partly obscured by cloud matter. He came in the house, set the camera on. Okay, this next one was taken by Arturo Romero on another day, on the 10th of February. This is 5 months later, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He's back at his favorite vantage point there, and he saw it, and he got 2 pictures. This is the only one I have in here.